Good afternoon, it's Sean Murphy. It's a Minute with Pablo Beach Insurance Group. Today we have a guest with us. His name is Joe Petrelli with Demotech Incorporated. Joe, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Sean.
Good to have you. I appreciate you taking the time to meet with us today. I'm going to give kind of an intro, Joe. You are the president and founder of Demotech Incorporated, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Demotech was founded in 1985. In 1989, Demotech Incorporated became the first company to review and rate independents, regionals, and specialty insurers. Everyone focused on the giants, Joe says. Demotech developed a process to review and rate regionals, and their focus is on reinsurance to accomplish that feat. Today, Demotech rates over 40 Florida insurance companies and reviews more than 400 insurance carriers in the United States. So if anyone wants to check your company out, it would be www.demotech.com, and that's DEMOTECH. Is that correct, Joe?
It is.
All right. Well, let me give the folks kind of just a little background on you, if you don't mind. Correct me or stop me, because I'm going on. You've got so much information here. I'll try to just hit some of the highlights. Folks, Joe founded Demotech Insurance, a rating company, and they're the second largest rating service in the United States, uniquely rated carrier account. And that's, yes, that's more than S&P, that's more than Moody's, that's more than Fitch. Joe's insight and innovation resulted in many firsts within the P&C industry and title industries, including a model for assigning financial stability ratings. In the insurance business, we call that the FRS. Is that right, Joe? The FRS is the financial stability ratings?
Yes, sir.
And when a carrier is rated, what is the rating that a carrier wants to have or to be adequate with lenders and to be viable in the industry?
Well, I think in terms of our rating process, the industry is going to want to be at the S level or above, preferably at the A level or above. And that will be acceptable to mortgage lenders, premium finance companies, umbrella insurance carriers, and the like. But there's a growing acceptance for S, which is one level below A. But I think in Florida, we're pretty much looking at the A level and above.
Way impressive as far as, you know, your history and your 30 years in the business. How did you get started with Demotech?
Well, early on, we realized that there was a need for regional and smaller insurance companies to have the types of services in the actuarial space and financial analysis space that the larger companies had. And so we got involved with we wanted to be the financial analysts of choice for the smaller companies. And then in 1988, we actually heard that the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac wanted to have independent reviews of regional and specialty companies. And the reality is AM Best told Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac it was impossible to do that. And so when we heard that it was impossible, we said, let's jump in. And so it was all about the reinsurance, which is a critical component, particularly in a jurisdiction like Florida, where it's cat prone.
Can you explain reinsurance? You just mentioned the word reinsurance, and in Florida, that's a big thing with the carriers. Can you explain to us how that works?
Sure. I think the easiest way might be through an example. You may have a situation where there's a $2 million property, and you have a relatively small company that says, you know what, I'm going to insure a large number of $2 million properties, but I'm relatively small, so I only want to keep $50,000 of my loss on any one risk. And if the wind blows and there's a terrible storm, I don't want to keep any more than $5 million. And so the reinsurers come in and they look at how many of those $2 million houses you have and how you've underwritten them and what the construction is of those homes. And they say, we will help you. You pay us a large percentage of your premium and we'll reimburse you. We'll back you. So reinsurance is sort of a conditional loan. If the wind blows and you have a loss, you've got the protection. But a company that buys reinsurance has the same predicament that a consumer has. I pay for reinsurance, but if the wind doesn't blow, my money's still gone. The same way that a consumer buys homeowners insurance and may never have a claim. So you have to look at it. If you're an insurance company that buys a lot of reinsurance, you have to look at that and say, we're just lucky the wind didn't blow. I spent a lot of money, but that's life.
Okay, well, that's pretty concise. What are some of the issues that you're seeing in the property insurance market that Demotech's following right now?
Well, I think in Florida, there's been some concerns about some of the judicial decisions back in 2016, 2017, 2018, and how those changed the way claims were processed to the detriment of, I think, to the detriment certainly of companies, but ultimately, when it costs more, it's also to the detriment of consumers because they pay more. The other thing that's hurt the marketplace is the insurance company's ability to place reinsurance. The cost of that's gone up markedly in the last 18 months, anywhere from 20 to 40%. So whereas a consumer's cost of insurance is regulated by the state of Florida Office of
Right,
Insurance
right.
Regulation, you have to document what rate increase you have. They have to approve it at the state level. There's a process. The reinsurers don't have to do that when they change the prices of reinsurance with the companies they work with. So the litigation and is one issue, and the cost of reinsurance is another.
So what you're saying is basically the rate increases are attributed to when a reinsurer raises the rates to a carrier to basically stay in business or to keep people whole when the wind blows,
Yeah.
then they're going to the state and they're filing to get that increase. So basically it's a pass along to the consumer.
Yes, sir. It's passed along the same way the cost of shingles on a roof or glass in a window. I mean, it's just a cost of doing business that gets passed on.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned legislatively. What type of legislative reform is going on, and what's needed for the consumer?
Well, what we've read about, and I'm not an attorney, I'm an actuary, but what we've read about is that there's a statute in Florida that is specific to Florida, and it's called one-way attorney's fees. And it used to be that part of the statute was used very rarely, so that if an insurance company had been just a total jerk about denying a claim and you went to court and the judge said, you know what, you should have paid this claim right off the bat, we're going to award the attorney that had to bring this suit an extraordinary amount of money because he or she should never have had to do this. And that was used very rarely. And what we've seen is what we hear from clients and companies is the expansion of that rule is that what was once a statute that was used quite rarely is now being used routinely. And so you're having these high costs and significant legal defense costs being passed on to consumers because of the abuse of that statute.
Wow, thank you. Everyone's heard about Citizens Insurance here in Florida. Does Demotech review or rate Citizens?
We do not rate. As a matter of fact, I believe no one rates Citizens Property Insurance Corporation. But I will say this: I think that Citizens has a different operating statutes and different legislative powers than most insurance companies. Citizens actually can assess policyholders for costs. So when Citizens can't go out of business because it can always assess, it's almost the ability to tax, and it can pass those costs on. So I don't think Citizens really needs a rating in the traditional sense because it has that capability under Florida law.
I've read recently where Citizens is trying to they've got what, a 10% cap of what they can or can't do in the state of Florida. and they're taking on more business than they can handle at this point with the rates going up and people just flooding the citizens, which is the insurer of last resort. Is there any, will they be able to take the cap off of their 10%, in your opinion?
Sean, I'll say this, Sean. You're particularly well informed because that is part of the problem in Florida. It's my understanding, based on some public information that is published by Citizens, that they are in fact more competitive on price than over 90% of the policies in the state. They have, just because their rates are artificially low. I think that there's two pieces to the puzzle. One is the affordability of the premium. The other one's the availability of the coverage. I think that if Citizens were to raise its rates to where the actuaries think they belong, there could become more of an affordability issue with consumers and the insureds. However, if Citizens doesn't do that, you have this huge government-sponsored entity that is actually as competitive in price as almost anyone in the state. It's really a paradox. It's an oxymoron that the insurer of last resort has the best rates in the state.
That we're competing against.
Yeah, exactly.
And the problem is with the market the way it's going, carriers just try to stay viable, and they're reducing or tightening their underwriting guidelines to whether they'll do a 10-year roof or a 12-year roof or whatever the case might be. And then Citizens comes in with a rate that's right there with the general market, and people are going to it. And there's nothing we can do as an agency standpoint to stop that. But when you mentioned to assess, can you explain, if we get hit by an Hurricane Andrew again, and there is an assessment, you use the term, it's kind of like a tax.
Yeah.
Can you explain how that would work, like statewide, if we got nailed and Citizens ran into a little bit of financial difficulty, how they would survive?
Well, basically, let's use an example. If someone's paying $1,000 a year for Citizens, that's their normal premium.
Okay. All right.
And that premium can only go up by, say, 10%. So the $1,000 premium can go up to $1,100.
Okay. All right.
If that's the normal situation, but they could go up, they'll go up 10%. But then let's say we have a huge storm and Citizens needs to assess. They would then add to the $1,100 on your bill, your invoice. You'd actually see a category that says, and I don't know how they're going to describe it, but it'd basically be storm, June 3rd, 2021.
Okay.
$80. And so at one point in the past, many of the invoices from Citizens not only had the premium on it, but they also had the assessments for a large number of storms. And many of those have now fallen off those invoices. But there's no limit. If there's 10 years of storms, you could pay your premium plus an assessment for storm 1, another assessment for storm 2, 3, all the way through the 10th storm. So it really is about how much the wind blows and how much Citizens has in its net worth, what we call policyholder surplus.
Okay. So when you mentioned earlier about rates, is there any possibility that the market can get healthy where rates can slide back for the consumer? Because what we've run into from an agency standpoint, we've seen where take people, we've got the oldest population of any state in the country. A lot of retirees are on fixed income, and they simply are getting these rate increases and they can't afford it. And then on the flip side, say you have a first-time home buyer, mom and dad are both working, kids are in daycare, school, whatever, and they're trying to buy a home, but the insurance is prohibitive of cost to where they can't afford the mortgage payment. So do you see any legislation or anything that can work that could help us drive premiums backwards for us?
I've been hearing, we just concluded conversations with over 40 insurance companies that are Florida focused. We literally concluded them this morning. And in those on those conversations, there was anywhere from 100 to 150 chief executive officers and financial officers and claims people in the state of Florida. And the dilemma is that they're all talking about increases premiums anywhere from 20 to 40%. So to your question, how can you bend that back? I think that what we want to do is we want to change the trajectory from 20 to 40% to a consumer in 1 year back to something that approaches the consumer price index, 3, 4, 5%.
Okay.
I, what, I mean, when you think about it, the insurance companies are essentially building houses. They're going to put a roof on, tar paper, shingles, the hourly rate of the craftsman and artisan that's fixing the roof, that's not going to go down. The same thing with plywood and the person that puts it up,
Right.
drywall, and the painters, the
Right.
people that the minimum wage is going to increase the cost of insurance because the assistants that people have are now going to have to make $15 an hour instead of
Right.
$12.50. So I don't see decreases. I don't want to be the bad guy here, but I don't see decreases, but I can see lowering the rate of inflation.
So instead of going like this, maybe we could get it scooting along with the consumer price index, like you said.
To your point about people being on a fixed income,
Yes.
if people on Social Security, they get a modest cost of living increase every year. If their insurance policies kind of followed that same modest cost of living, it would not be as harmful to them to see a little increase now and again.
Okay. Couple more questions and I won't keep you. If you could wave a magic wand, what would be the single most thing you'd like to see happen in the Florida property market?
I'll be honest. I mean, you nailed it when you said I would love to see insurance rates at a level that consumers could afford today and know that 1 year from now they can still afford it. I'd love to see some level of affordability return to the marketplace. I think that would come from the legislature taking corrective actions on some of the abuses that are either legislative and there's even some fraud. And once that happens, once that stabilizes and the outsiders to Florida see that there's been changes, the reinsurance rates will come down. And the reinsurance rates are a huge component of the cost of insurance. Reinsurance costs for a traditional company go anywhere from 30 to 60% of the premium they collect from consumers.
So you're saying out of every dollar, it's 30 to 60 cents out of every dollar.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And if we can see the reinsurance people feel comfortable with Florida, maybe they'll ask for 20 to 40 instead of 30 to 60, which again helps consumers. But that would be my wish, that somehow we can find affordable insurance that is also relatively profitable to the companies, but affordable to consumers.
Okay, one last question, and this is what I think is a lot in the news, is the term fee multiplier. Can you kind of explain what the fee multiplier problem is?
The fee multiplier refers to the one-way attorney's fee statutes. And so what happens is where you have a claim where maybe in the past, like 5 years ago, maybe 1 out of 1,000 claims would be so egregious to the judge that he would say, we're going to have a fee multiplier of 600. So you get 6 times the money you would have gotten for this claim. If the lawyer was billing them 5,000, they'd get 30,000. And so the fee multiplier, but what's happened is instead of being 1 out of 1,000 claims, now they're awarding fee multipliers in 30, 40, 50% of the claims. And it's not being used on as a rare exception. It's being used as a normal course of business. So if you and I have a claim, I'm the insurance company, you're a consumer, you think I owe you 10 grand, I think it's 9,800. That's not that far apart. I don't deserve, if we go to court over that, I don't deserve to be hit with a fee multiplier. It's not like I'm telling you, you say 10,000 and I say $3. It's not egregious. It's just a difference of opinion. And they're using this fee multiplier in most cases instead of rare cases.
Okay, thank you. I think that's pretty solid. Is there anything else you'd like to offer us, what we can or can't do from an agency perspective or from a consumer perspective to help this situation?
Well, I'm going to say this. I mean, to give my age away a little bit, but I've been in the insurance business. You can call it 50 years from when I went to the College of Insurance, or 45 from when I graduated from their work-study program.
Okay.
In all that time, myself, our company, our team, we're firm believers in the independent agency system. The best way for a consumer to get the best deal is to work with somebody that's been doing it for a while. And from our perspective, I think independent agents see the world through multiple sets of eyes, and I think that's the way to go.
Okay, well, Joe, thanks. I tell you what I got today in the mail. We got your quarterly magazine, Demotech. Thank you. And if anyone wants any information, they could reach you guys at www.demotech.com. That's DEMOTECH. If anyone needs any information from us, it's www.pablobeachinsurance.com, or contact us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. We're here to help you. And Joe, I can't thank you enough for taking your time out of your busy day and joining us today. I appreciate it.
It's been fun. And Sean, if you don't mind holding up that magazine again, that is the Florida Commissioner of Insurance, David Altmeyer, who is also the incoming president of the National Association of Insurance Commissioners from the great state of Florida.
Awesome. Well, there's some credibility for you from the old state of Florida. All right. Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much. Have a good day, sir.
You do the same. Stay well.
Thank you.